Yeah, hi there, Kelly. This is Michael, the founder, owner, and the materials writer for the 7-step system to pass a TOEFL IBT. And you're one of my online TOEFL students, and you kind of have a really interesting situation. So let's read what you have to say, and I hope you don't mind. I'm posting this at my YouTube channel. I have about 1,600 subscribers, so I'm sure there's other students who also might have a similar question as what you might have right now. So you say, I have some questions for the TOEFL test. First of all, I found out while I was practicing for the reading section that I always make some mistakes with inferences. The part and the reading to learn part. Although I have tried to get them right, I only have got 2 out of 10 on that part of the test. So what do you recommend me do, please? You know, the first step, Kelly, is at least you understand what some of your weaknesses are, so that's a good step in the right direction. To help you with the inferences part of, I would recommend that you take a look at my TOEFL speaking lesson number 7. Let me take a look at that. Yeah, I think this is going to be pretty useful for you. If you take a look at, probably there's 2 things. Under TOEFL Reading Lesson 3, it says, insert sentence detail, negative detail, and imply detail questions. So I would highly recommend you take a look at that video that talks about implied detail question types. Now, the next thing is lesson number 7. It talks about inferring rhetorical purpose continued. I think this would also be something that you want to check out a little bit more. So I think that would be good for you. The main thing to remember is, with an inference question, Kelly, you don't have to pull the answer out of thin air, but you also have to know that the answer to an implied detail question is not directly stated in the reading passage. So you will definitely, what you want to do is look at the question, and then you'll see something like, what is probably true, what does the writer imply about, or what can be inferred from. Now, once you see that in the question, you know that's an implied detail question. Your next step is to identify some key words in the question. Then you go to the reading passage, you locate those key words. You read the sentence which uses those key words, and then you have to draw a conclusion. Draw a conclusion means you have to kind of make a generalization about something that's said in the passage or something you read in the passage that relates to the question that was not directly stated. Now, once you read and you try to make a conclusion, then you look at the answer choices A, B, C, and D, and then try to answer those questions. So that would be part of my advice with that. Now, one other thing that I think might be useful for you is I'd also like you to take a look at my lesson number 1 in my TOEFL speaking course under the reading. It says pre-reading reading and note-taking strategies. I think that would be an important lesson for you also to kind of help you get going in the right direction. Okay? And then maybe one more lesson, lesson number 15, where it talks about 3 ways to increase your TOEFL IBT reading score above 21 out of 30. I'd also advise you to read that particular lesson also to help you get going in the right direction. All right, now let's take a look at the next question. You say, my second question is, last week I took the PBT TOEFL test, the paper-based test, and I have scored 510 out of 677. No, I would say scored, not have scored, because take a look at what you said here. You use the simple tense in this particular verb here, and then you're using the present perfect, and I don't think you want to mix the present perfect and the simple past here. So I would just say, and I scored 510. So listening, you got 53. Reading, you got 52. Grammar, this is your weakness. You got 47. So what you want to do is you need to bring up that grammar score to about 53, and you will surely reach your goal, right? So you say, so the grammar part, I'm not doing well in it, and the university requires 530 minimum or 71 in the TOEFL IBT test. My question is, do I retake the TOEFL PBT again? If I do, can you recommend me what do I have to do? You're struggling a little bit with your grammar here. Be careful. Let me help you out here. What you want to say is, my question is, you might want to say, my question is maybe whether or not I should retake the TOEFL PBT again, and if I do, can you recommend what I have to do? When you're using noun clauses, Kelly, typically you want to use what's called the connector subject verb word order. So I would actually take this and just say, can you recommend me recommend what I have to do in terms of the grammar section, or just take the TOEFL IBT. I would say, I mean, you're pretty lucky. Not all schools allow you to do that. So if you can take the PBT and save yourself some money, why not, right? Okay, so let's take a look at the grammar for just a minute. I think you're asking me a little bit about what would be some specific strategies that you think are important and helping me score higher on the grammar section, right? Okay, so let me try to give you some general tips. Now, one thing that I would recommend is, let me go to, again, the website just quickly here. Let's go to the grammar section for just a second. To help you improve your grammar, I would recommend some things here. Let me show you some things. You probably already studied these, but I'll recommend them anyway. So in the grammar section, take a look at lesson number 1, sentence variety. I think that would be important for you. Also, lesson number 3, when to use commas. Believe it or not, even though punctuation is not directly tested on the paper-based test, knowing punctuation helps you understand grammar and the grammar structures that might be within the punctuation marks. So lesson 3 would be important for you also. Also, I would recommend lesson number 7. And let me go ahead and click on this, show you a couple of things. What you want to focus on here, this is the website, A Writer's Reference by Diana Hacker. If it asks you to log in, just put cancel. And you don't need to worry about that. What you want to do now is focus in all of these areas, everything from sentence style to word choice, grammatical sentences, ESL challenges, punctuation mechanics, and basic grammar. For example, once you click on sentence style, you can focus on parallelism, needed words, misplaced modifiers, and on and on and on. I'm telling you, Kelly, this one web page, this one website will really help you a lot for the grammar section of the paper-based test, and it will prepare you better for the speaking and the writing sections of the IBT TOEFL. All right, so having said that, and having kind of made a point that you should study, again, if you're not sure what that is, that's my TOEFL grammar lesson number 7. Now let's take a look at the ETS, the structure and written expression questions, section 2. So what we want to get into right now is called strategy, right? So there's really 2 things that you want to do. There's 2 basic strategies, I think, for answering questions on the TOEFL IBT. Number 1 is what's called the intuitive approach, and the other is called the analytical approach to answering those questions. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. And then you have these are the 2 strategies that you can use when you're answering questions on the paper-based test. Okay, so let's talk about what these are now. The main thing, though, you want to try to use what's called the intuitive approach, but if you still don't know which answer is correct, or which answer needs to be rewritten in order for the sentence to be correct, then do the analytical approach. Now, keeping in mind these two ideas, let me make them a little bit bigger here. Now, can you see that? Is that better? See this? These are the two strategies for the TOEFL IBT. Now, let's go back to the question. Now, the intuitive approach means you simply look at the example. For example, this is from the TOEFL website. Geysers have often been compared to volcanoes. And then you read the different answers. Due to, they both admit. Because they both admit. In spite of, they both admit. Regardless of, they both admit. What you do here is you pick which answer sounds better to you. Now, that's called the intuitive approach. The intuitive approach is a good approach because you can answer questions fairly quickly. Now, in this case, if you read them out loud, maybe the word because sounds better because we're introducing what's called a subject and a verb here. They, and then we have emit, right? Now, if you don't know what answer sounds right, then you get into the analytical approach. So let's go back to what this is. The analytical approach, really, you have to ask yourself two questions. Where is the subject and where is the verb in the main part of the sentence? If you can identify that, it helps you do a better job answering the question. So here, we know that the main subject here is geysers. The verb have often been compared. You see that? Have often been compared. So we have a subject and a verb. Now the next thing is we also have another subject and we have another verb. Now English grammar says, Kelly, you cannot combine more than one subject or more than one verb without some kind of connector. Now in this case, due to is a preposition. It is not a connector. It can't be used to join a dependent and an independent clause together. In spite of, it's also a preposition, so it is also wrong. Regardless of is a preposition, which makes it wrong. So again, based on the analytical approach, your best answer is because you need what's called a subordinating conjunction or an adverb clause connector you need to use here in order to connect a dependent clause to an independent clause. That would be what's called the analytical approach. Now another thing is, due to and because have similar meanings because they focus on what's called expected result or cause-effect type relationships. You see what I'm saying? So you can even get rid of in spite of and regardless of because they work more on what's called unexpected type results or what's called contrast type relationships. But of course, due to is a preposition, which means it can't be used to introduce the subject they and the verb emit. But because works better because it is an adverb clause connector, which is used to introduce the subject they and then the verb emit. Okay, so remember, the next strategy too with structure, you only want to take 8 minutes. Do not take too much time answering the first 15 questions of the test. Remember, Kelly, on the written expression part of the test, you have 40 questions. The first 15 questions are structure. Basically, you're trying to identify which answer needs to be rewritten in order for, not rewritten, you're trying to identify which answer best completes the sentence. That's what you're doing for the first 15 questions. So again, only 8 minutes. Now, you have about 17 minutes to answer the next part, or what's called the written expression part of the test. Hold on, I'll be right back. All right, let's take a look at this one. Now, with written expression, Kelly, you're trying to identify which answer needs to be rewritten in order for the sentence to be correct. All right, that's kind of what you're looking for right now. Now again, your strategy is to take about 17 minutes and, if possible, use the intuitive approach. That simply means you pick what sounds wrong. Now, if you don't know what sounds wrong and you have to use the analytical approach, I'm going to give you some basic tips with that. Okay, there's about 4 types of errors you want to pay attention to. To understand the TOEFL test, Kelly, is you want to understand that they're testing your writing errors. ETS is aware of all the different languages of the world. They know what the grammars are. They know the types of errors that the non-native speakers will make from these different languages. And then they create these questions. Now, for you and for many non-native speakers, there are certain errors that occur more often than others. And also, there are certain types of errors that are bigger problems than other problems. So I would recommend try to focus on the big picture when you're looking at these kinds of questions. For example, here, let's take a look at an example. Where is it? Let's go to 5 here. It says, electrical disturbances on Earth are frequently caused with storms on the surface of the sun. So what you want to do is focus on the bigger words before you focus on the what I call the more grammatical words. So electrical is an adjective, so I would definitely take a look at that. Look at the word are, and then frequently, which is an adverb, and are is a verb, right? Then you have with, which is a preposition. You have on the surface, which is a prepositional phrase. So your strategy first is to look at both A and B. Why? Because those are bigger, more important aspects of the sentence. Electrical is an adjective. It is correct because it occurs before disturbances, which is a noun. Adjectives can be used to modify nouns. Disturbances is plural. Therefore, the verb is also plural, are. And then you have the adverb frequently, and it's being used between the auxiliary verb and the main verb caused. It is possible to use adverbs in that order. So that's good. Now, we can eliminate now A and B as being correct. These are correctly written, so we don't want to pick them. Remember, we're trying to identify which answer is wrong. Now we have are caused with or on the surface. So your incorrect answer here is with, because we're using, Kelly, what's called passive voice. So with should be changed to by, and then you can read the sentence to say this. Electrical disturbances on Earth are frequently caused by storms on the surface of the sun. On the surface of the sun is also correct. You're using on, and then you have a determiner, and then you have a noun surface. So the prepositional phrase is being used correctly in that sense. Now what I'm saying is, if we go back to the strategies here, when you're looking at the answers with 16 through 40, you want to pay attention to these types of words are most important. Word forms. Pay attention to nouns, adjectives, adverbs, and then verbs. If you're guessing and you don't know which answer is correct, focus on these 4 types of words. These are good guesses if you have to guess. Now, word choice is a little bit different. Let's take a look at this one for a minute. I'll make this blue. Word choice means looking at words like versus likely, or you might be using a word make versus do. How about quantity, number, or amount? These words are very tricky. So if you're guessing, and you see words like or likely or make or do or quantity, number, amount, they're good guesses, pick them. Now, I'm only saying when you're guessing, think about words like this. These are very frequently occurring type possibilities on the paper-based TOEFL. Now, parallel structure has to do with keeping everything balanced. Let's make this here. You know, either, you might say plus, same structure, equals, or plus same structure. Let's see if I can explain a little bit about what this is. So let's say I like bicycling and running. In this case, I'm using and what it means is I have to use a gerund on both sides of this conjunction to keep the sentence balanced. You should really look for this error on the written expression part of the test. I'm telling you. Very, very important. Now, if I say this, I like either bicycling, I can't say and. I have to say or. I like either bicycling or running. Something along those lines. So either is parallel to or, and bicycling is parallel to running. Now, the last thing is word order. So you should also be careful about word order during the TOEFL IBT. So if I said this, check my spelling really fast. Bicycling. All right. Let's see what we have here. So in this case, if I say, I met a man smart and humorous, I would definitely, that would be what's called a word order problem. You might say, I met a smart and humorous man. So in English, we have to take the two adjectives and we have to put them before the man, not after. Now, if I write it like this, I'm now thinking in Spanish, because in Spanish you might say this kind of sentence, but not in English. So what I'm saying is to just recap what I'm saying, that if you do use the analytical approach and you're answering questions in the what's called the written expression part of the paper-based TOEFL, you want to pay very close attention to any possible problems with word forms, word choice, parallel structure, and also word order. That's exactly what I'm saying there, right? Now let's take a look at another example here. Let's take a look at a few examples. Number 2. Inventor Granville Woods received his first patent on January 3rd, 1884 for a steam boiler furnace. So then we have A, B, C, and then D. So your correct answer here, you can pause the video if you want to figure it out before you hear what I'm going to say. The correct answer here is A, him. It needs to be changed to his, because his is a determiner which is modifying patent. So whose patent? James Granville Woods' patent, or his first patent. On January 3rd, that's correct. My birthday is in December, or on December 19th, I might say. You have 4 is the cause-effect type relationship, that's correct. And then steam, boil, or furnace, using a noun here in an adjectival type position. Okay, let's take a look at just one more here. And hopefully you'll get the picture of what I'm talking about here. Number 7 says, a deficient of folic acid is rarely found in humans because the vitamin is contained in a wide variety of foods. So, in this case, we have the word deficient is incorrect. Why? Because deficient is an adjective. That's why we need to use a noun, because it says a. So deficient has to be changed to deficiency. A deficiency of folic acid is rarely found in humans because. Now that's what I'm talking about. This is what we just saw, deficient, and changing it to deficiency. This is called a word form error. This one error, you're probably looking at 8 or 9 different questions on 16 through 40, which will focus exclusively on either nouns, adjectives, adverbs, or verbs, and some specific problem with those words. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, in conclusion, I think that I have said way too much for this particular, my wife is going to kill me here. I should be hanging out with her and my 4-year-old, so I need to wind down this video very quickly. Okay, let's go back to what you just said, and I'll just recap what I said. So I gave you some basic suggestions of some lessons that you can focus on to improve your reading a little bit, right? Now, as you're working on your reading, I think as you review a practice test from one of your TOEFL books, you really want to look at each answer, especially the answers you miss. And the question is, why did you pick the wrong answer? Why is your answer wrong? And why is the correct answer better than the answer you chose? So you really want to study and review all of the reading practice tests that you take. And that way you get more familiar with the kinds of errors that you're making. Okay, now in addition to giving you some basic tips on reading and improving your reading, I think for inferences, I also gave you some general tips to help you improve your written expression and structure, or your grammar, for the paper-based TOEFL by explaining to you the 2 different strategies that people use when they take the TOEFL. I mentioned to you the intuitive approach, which is usually the best approach to take because it's faster. You simply pick what sounds right or sounds wrong. You don't need to know why. You just pick it. Of course, if 2 answers sound correct, or they all sound correct, or they all sound wrong, and you cannot select the best answer based on that strategy, then you go to the analytical approach. And I think that I said in this video, when you're analyzing a sentence, ask yourself where the subject and where the verb is in the sentence. Those are 2 good questions to always ask yourself. And then, I think I said with the written expression, you really want to focus on looking for these 4 types of errors. Word form errors, word choice errors, parallel structure errors, and also word order type errors. All right, anyway, thank you very much, Kelly, for your questions. Have a great night.